Hi guys, welcome to another Rossi audio video. I'm going to take up a topic today that I see is becoming more and more widespread online. And goes to about buying and selling equipment online. I'm going to try and not go too much into the eBay side of things, because that is a different beast in itself, and where you have both scammers on both buying and selling side of things. This problem that I'm going to talk about today is more related to Facebook, because you have scammers on all sales platforms. You can't get away from that. You have selling scammers, buying scammers on Letgo, OfferUp, eBay, wherever things are bought and sold. So, but those are different than the one that I have seen is becoming a big problem on Facebook. And the biggest problem on Facebook are sellers, for some reason. And I have seen countless posts in different groups that I'm a member of, audio groups, and this is not just isolated to car audio. It also goes into hi-fi and vintage audio, where a seller posts something for sale, and you have one or two people or maybe more that are interested in buying this said item. It can be anything from a in-dash CD player to an amplifier, speakers, subwoofers, whatever. Or in the hi-fi and vintage audio groups, we see it often with speakers, receivers, amplifiers, turntables, stuff like that. So what is this scam? Well, you have people selling, like I said, post things for sale, and then another person, a buyer, comes along and they start to interact and talk about this item, and they agree that, okay, I'm going to buy it. Transaction is being made, money is changing hands or changing accounts, and it becomes a problem because the seller is not shipping the item as promised. Basically, you paid for something as a buyer and the seller is not shipping you the item. And we see this in the groups where the buyer is posting another post saying, hey, this guy is a fraud, he's not shipping out the item, here's little print screens from our conversation that has been going on. And there's a million excuses for the seller not to ship, why he haven't shipped, why you haven't provided a tracking number, and of course all these well-known excuses about, oh, I was out of town, I was sick, my kid ended up in the hospital, I shipped it but I can't find my receipt with a tracking number, and all kinds of stuff like that. There's a bunch of excuses. I can tell you right away that if you buy something from someone on Facebook, if they don't provide a receipt with a tracking number from the post office or FedEx or UPS the same day, or no later than the next morning or the next day, you can be pretty sure that that item has never shipped. I understand that you maybe make a payment late in the day and the seller needs a day or two to maybe pack it and have it shipped, because not everyone lives in a big city nearby a post office or a FedEx facility or a UPS store. So some sellers might need a day to get things settled, or 2 days to get things packed properly. So when you buy something, ask the seller, how soon can you have this shipped? When will you ship it? Can you give me a timeline on what your schedule is for having this packed and shipped? And any honest seller will then tell you that, I can have it shipped out today, or they will tell you it's a little bit late today. I need to get boxes. I need to get packing material. I have to take it to the store. I live half an hour away from a post office or a FedEx facility or UPS store, so I can do it tomorrow. A seller who says that, well, then you have to take his word for it. However, that said, if nothing happens that day or the next day, and let's say you run into day number 3 and you haven't received any shipping information, no tracking number, nothing, you can be safe to expect or assume that the item has not shipped. Any honest seller will, as soon as they have it, as soon as it's shipped, will take a picture of it or scan it or however they do it and send it to you. Because that is their kind of like their seal of approval that they kept up their side of the bargain, and to make the seller stand out as an honest seller and a trusted seller. But if you don't receive anything after what they have promised you, let's say there's a day late, they promised you a receipt or a tracking number and have it shipped out the same day or the next day, and that didn't happen, on day number 3 and 4 you are kind of like asking for it. Where is the tracking number? Can you show me a receipt? If they don't have it or they come with some excuse, then there is no shipment being done in most cases. Very, very, very few cases end up with where the seller says, oh shit, I lost the receipt, but I shipped it. Sometimes that happened, but it's very, very, it is so, what can I say, 1 out of 100,000 or 1 in a million that happens. Because I mean, most sellers will take care of that receipt or that tracking number that they get. And with FedEx these days, and I think maybe UPS has it as well, if you have a FedEx account or the FedEx app, and the seller says, I went to FedEx and I shipped it, but I lost the receipt. Okay. If you as a buyer has a FedEx app with a FedEx account where you can do a lot of stuff, you can put in a request for holding the item or a request for diverting the item from your address to a store so you can pick it up later. If you have that app, all shipments that are made to your name will automatically show up without the tracking number. So if the seller says, oh, I went to FedEx and I shipped it off yesterday, but somehow I lost the receipt, well, then you can download the FedEx app and sign up for an account, and you will see if there's any scheduled deliveries to your address. I'm not sure if UPS has that or not, because I don't use UPS much. Most of the time I use USPS, post office, and FedEx for heavier, bigger item. Different reasons for that. So that's one way you can check it out. I'm not sure if USPS has that yet or not. You might go into USPS.com and see if they have something similar. But this is why I use FedEx, because they have a system set up really, really well. So we are now in the range where the seller is coming with excuses one after another. Days goes by, a week go by, and as a buyer you are nagging the seller, hey, I need to know when was it shipped, was it shipped. And if this goes on for a week or 2 or maybe 3 weeks or a month, which I have seen people has posted on in these Facebook groups, like, oh, I made an agreement with this seller a month ago, but I haven't received it, or 3 weeks ago and I haven't received anything, and the seller says he shipped it. Well, that's a problem, because you can be 100% sure that it never shipped, and he's giving you the runaround. He's lying. He never shipped it. He took the money and spent it on whatever he wanted to spend it on, and I classified that as already then as a fraud. So you should then do a few things. You should contact the police, first of all, and report this as a fraud. You should also, if you live in a state, not all states have this, but if you live in a state where you have small claims court, I would file a claim for small claims court, and get a verdict or a notion or some emotions against the seller, and that way you can in fact do some legal remedies on your own. If you live in a state that has no small claims court, I know that the state I live in, they don't have a small claim court. They have something else. It's a little bit different. So, and of course, if you paid with PayPal or a credit card, you will have to file a claim with your credit card or with PayPal to get your money back. Here's the problem. And I see this all the time. Okay, we have scamming sellers, which are fraudsters, and they need to be weeded down and taken out and taken care of legally by the system. But here's another problem, and I see this in so many cases, so many posts that are being posted in these groups, especially when it comes to car audio, where the seller and the buyer has agreed on a payment, agreed on a price, and the payment is sent, and very often via PayPal. And where the seller has requested that the buyer pays in to his PayPal account as a friend or family, because there is fees involved. Well, bad news for you. If you're that gullible and you accept those terms, then you can blame yourself, because then you have no recourse to get your money back. PayPal will not refund if you have paid the seller as a friend and family. So why would you? You're setting you up for fail. And this is what these sellers are doing. They are trying to convince you that, oh, I could have charged you another $25 or $50 because that's what we save on fees. And in today's market and in today's collectors group, or what we call it, everyone wants to save a buck or two. But I mean, is it really worth it to save a little bit of money not being safe? Or is it worth to pay? Because you have to think about this. PayPal fees is 2.75%. So let's say you buy something for $100. It's $2.75. Wouldn't you take that and you tell the seller, you know what, you want $100 for that amp including shipping? Why don't you just charge me $103 or 102.75, and I'll transfer the money as some regular PayPal buying and selling, like a merchant thing. That way you are secured if the seller doesn't send the item out. But this is a problem today, and this is the root of the problem. And the sellers, they know this so well. They know that the buyers want to skimp and save just $1 or $2 on everything. And buyers would want to brag about it in groups. Oh, I got this fantastic deal. I only paid $100 for this. It's worth $400. And the sellers know this. All sellers know this. And the problem with that is, just because everyone is so focused on buying equipment for the cheapest amount of money, the least amount of in things involved, they will do it. They will take the hook, line, and sinker and swallow it raw. If you are a buyer and you agree to send money to a stranger as friend and family via PayPal, I don't feel sorry for you. I feel bad for the rest of the group that they have a scammer and a fraudster in the group. And of course, it's never a good thing that someone got scammed. But if you set yourself up to be scammed, damn it, you deserve it. Then you really don't have a reason to come and complain about it later on, because you are just as responsible for what happened as the seller. Why wouldn't you pay maybe $2 or $3 or $4 or $5, $10 on $1,000? We're talking about $27.50. Okay, so why would you set yourself up to be fooled, scammed, and taken advantage of? I'm sorry. If you do that, I don't feel any empathy with you or any sympathy with you for 5 cents. You did this to yourself with a little bit of help of the seller, of course. But if you do that, don't even come and complain about it later on, because you just screwed yourself. I'm sorry to say that, but you did. But that doesn't mean that the group shouldn't be made aware of what is happening. So if you agreed to that and you got scammed and you have no way of getting your money back, okay, that's bad for you. But I think it's good that you alert the group and other members that this person cannot be trusted and should not be a member of the group anymore and should be blocked and kicked out. So if you agreed on sending money to this seller as friend and family and you have no way of getting your money back unless the seller kind of like, okay, gets a second heart and turn over the money to you, which will never happen, then your only solution and your only little possible hope is to go via the courts and small claims court if you have that in your state. If not, you have to look it up and see what kind of legal remedies you can apply in your state. And of course, you have to go to the cops and you have to file a case against the person for fraud, deception, whatever it is. Most likely it will be categorized as fraud. And here's another thing, just to go back to the tracking number, because I've seen this happen too. I have seen sellers provide false tracking number and false shipping information. And that is done to throw the buyer off. If that had happened, if that is the fact in your case, or if that is the fact in either one case that we're talking about, then you also can contact the postal inspector, because then it becomes a postal fraud and mail fraud as well. I've seen this has happened with USPS. I have seen it happen with UPS tracking numbers. Not so much with FedEx tracking number for some reason, but very often USPS and UPS have I seen the seller has provided a false tracking number. And one was so bad that the seller had sent a tracking number to the buyer, and when the buyer took the tracking number and did a tracking search on it, it came up as delivered in a totally different city, totally different state, and at a totally different time. It was already delivered like months ago. So clearly, that is, the seller used an old tracking number, and then he got confronted with, and was called out on it, and he said, "Oh, my bad, I gave you the wrong number. I have so many receipts here." And then another 2 or 3 weeks went by, and I think that case, I don't know what happened there, because it's such a long time ago. It was like last year or something, and the admin of the group shut down all comments on the post. The seller got kicked out. The buyer, I think, left the group or something like that, because I haven't seen much of it later after that. But this happens all the time. I see it like once or twice a week in different groups. And as a buyer, and here's the thing, as a buyer, you have to protect yourself. And the only way you can protect yourself is to use a payment method that makes it possible for you to open a claim later on if you never receive your item or items. That's the only way you can be somewhat safe. If you use PayPal, for crying out loud, don't send money as friends and family, because you will never get your money back if the seller decides to be a fraudster and never send you the product. I hope this helped you out a little bit and give you something to chew on and think about. So remember, as a seller, protect yourself at all times against scamming buyers. As a buyer, protect yourself as best as you can against scamming sellers. Now, there's certain ways and different ways for each category. If you're a seller, there's certain ways and certain things you can do to secure and save your butt. And as a buyer, there's a certain different type of things that you can do, should do, to save and secure your butt. That is a topic for another video. I think I've touched it in the past in some of my previous videos. Way back, a year, 2 years ago or something, I made a video about eBay and a little bit about eBay and stuff like that. I think I touched that topic in there. But stay safe on Facebook, and whatever you do, here's just one. Do not send money, if you're a buyer, do not send money to a seller via PayPal as friends and family, okay? Do not send money orders. Very important. Do not send money via Western Union. And do not do a bank wire transfer. And do not pay via Facebook app. When you buy stuff on Facebook, you have this pay the buyer now, button, and you can pay them. I haven't seen anything that would make me as a buyer trusting that payment app enough. Pay with a credit card or PayPal merchant, like if you're going to buy something, and don't send it as friends and family. So PayPal and credit cards are good, because then you have a recourse, you have a place to go if something happened. You can file a claim and get your money back. Credit cards are 180 days. PayPal, I think they also are. There's a little bit different there. They have a few things, but it used to be 90 days, and then I think they upped it to 180 days. So it's either 90 or 180. But credit cards is 180 days, 6 months. So stay safe and use safe payment options, okay? Take care.